Hey, how you doing there again, folks? Me again, of course, Brandon Wenzel. Come back at you with another confession off my Concert Confession series. Folks, Concert Confessions is a vlog series I've been doing for a little while now where I go over there and basically yammer on about my live music adventures and happenings and goings on. I'm a big fan of live music and going out to concerts and such, and this is an opportunity for me to just go over there and sort of vent that out into the universe. It's also an opportunity for me to go over there and confess my concert sins, recount my recreational revelries, and muse over my musical misadventures. Basically, it's just one big ego stroke where I get to go over there and just talk about shows that I went to because, well, I want to. But anyway, whilst I'm doing all that, folks, I am inside my back room today, which means we get, boom, Peter Cannon Thunderbolt potion behind me. Whilst I'm doing all that, I am doing something else. What is it, though? Don't tell anyone. I'm wearing a super cool shirt. Folks, when I wear super cool shirts, I always like to highlight the super cool shirt. What super cool shirt am I wearing for you today, though? Happens to be my 12 stone shirt, which I really like this design. It's just very classic and cool. If you're unfamiliar with the band 12 Stones, well, apparently you didn't watch my previous episode of Concert Confessions, because that's where I talked about going out to this particular show. Don't you know? But 12 Stones, they're a band that came around in, I believe, the early 2000s. Had a little bit of a run, you know, they weren't ever like a big name band or anything, but excuse me, but, you know, they did all right for themselves doing what they were doing. Probably the most known thing in association with them is that the lead singer was the guest vocalist on the song Bring Me to Life by Evanescence, which obviously was a huge song, so he was the Wake Me Up guy. I like the band. They're a fun time. Like I said, I got to see them recently. I got videos of their performance. Those videos are on my channel in case you want to check them out. If nothing else, I'd be more than happy to sort of point you in the right direction as far as their music goes, because they're a damn fine band. But anyway, what are we doing here today, folks? What concert am I recounting? Well, folks, this is Concert Confessions, episode number 8, concert number 181. And it is basically was a local showcase of 6 bands. We had Consume the Divide, Aight Bet, Collapse Create, Discrepancies, Modifier, and From Ashes to Embers. Ooh. What with so many bands, I am going to have to kind of shoot through these a little bit quickly, so if any of the bands happen to see this, because it has happened, I apologize if it seems like I'm kind of, you know, making my way through, but again, just got to get everybody in there. So, in this series, I have sort of a format that I like to follow, where I talk about the various aspects of the show. First thing that I always like to talk about is the venue. Now, in this case, the venue is actually a bit more prevalent than usual, because the venue was the Apollo Theater out in Belvidere, Illinois. The reason why that's significant is 2 things. One, it's a historic venue. It's been around for, I think, like over 100 years or something. But even more so than that, a few years ago, at the time that I'm doing this, there actually was a severe weather incident that brought down the roof. And it actually happened to be while a show was going on. Now, thankfully, the weather advisory had basically, you know, made people aware, but there was, if I'm not mistaken, 1 fatality involved. Thankfully, more people weren't hurt. For a while, it looked like the venue itself might be closing down, you know, like there was like a crowdfunding thing, and they were like supposedly having issues with the insurance or whatever. So this was my first time back out there since that had occurred. It was wonderful to see that they've completely recovered from everything that occurred. It is a very cool venue. Like, they have a great stage set up. There's lots of open space. There's actually a balcony, so, you know, if you want to watch but not be part of, you can sort of hang out up there. It's a very cool spot. And again, I have to give them a lot of credit for, you know, bouncing back after what happened. And as far as anything else is concerned, like, I like the Apollo. My biggest gripe with the Apollo is that it's out in Belvidere, Illinois, which is around nothing, and it is a trip and a half to get there. I mean, it's not too bad realistically. It's a straight shot, but like, man, oh man, is it a pain in the ass to get there for me. But very cool venue. About the only other problem that I have had with it, the sound, because I think in part because, you know, it's like a theater, you know, it was originally built to have, like, you know, that strong acoustics. When you have like big speakers and stuff, it can be a little bit mixed as to, you know, how well that reverberation and stuff kind of picks up. It's not terrible or anything. It's just something that I definitely noticed at this particular show where it was like some of the bands seem to have it, set up a little bit better where it worked better with the acoustics. Other bands seem to struggle a little bit more with it. But that's neither here nor there. And in general, everybody sounded good. It was just, again, a little bit of that reverberation just messing with the clarity of the audio in certain instances. But really nice venue. About the only other thing I had to say was they are a no re-entry place. And I understand why venues do this. I do get it. But I will say, after about 15 minutes of me being in the venue, I was completely loaded up on merch to the extent where I was actually overflowing. And I asked politely, hey, would it be okay if I just went to my car real quick? You guys can stamp my hand or do whatever you need to do. Just let me unload my merch. The guy was kind of like, about it, and that was fine, and I let it go. But I will just say, I'm not crapping on the Apollo for this, because, again, a lot of venues have this as a policy. But I would, how about a one-time deal? Just a one-time deal, again, stamp my hand again, or do whatever. But again, that's just me, because, again, I like to buy merch. That'll become prevalent. All right, let's move on to the bands themselves. Like I said, there were 6 of them, so I am going to have to kind of speed through this a little bit, which sucks because great bands. The opening band was a local band that I'm a big fan of called Consume the Divide. I have actually known these guys for about 10 years now. I think the first time I ever saw them, they were opening up for a Mushroomhead show out at the Forge. And I noted them at the time as, being like, hey, they got great energy, blah, 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 blah. But it wouldn't be until a few years later when I started seeing them at sort of, some more local shows and stuff. And, I ended up becoming a really big fan. They are a great, great outfit. The 2 lead singers, Dan and Joe, they are both great people. I have nothing but phenomenal things to say about them. Joe and I, we go over there and we trade back and forth Transformers information because we both collect Transformers toys. So how cool is that? This was also the re-debut of them because they actually hadn't put on a show in over a year. Because since the last time I saw them at their previous, last show, all but the 2 lead singers had left for various reasons. So they had to completely regroup and get a new band going. The really cool thing about that was that they recruited the drummer of another band that I'm a big fan of, a local band called Wonderlick, guy who goes by Dan. And Dan is an awesome and amazing guy. He is in, I think 4 or 5 bands now, and he's an incredible human being, an incredible drummer. So it was awesome to have him as part of the Consume the Divide family. The performance itself was great. Dan and Joe and other Dan all delivered really well. And I apologize to the rest of the guys. I just don't know, not as familiar with you guys yet. I will say, because this was their first show as a full unit, you could tell there were, everybody needed to get a little bit comfortable with everything, but everything was played proficiently and stuff. It's just, again, getting to find that point where everybody's comfortable doing what they're doing, and and that's just going to come with more shows that they play, and hopefully they play a lot more together because they're a really good band. I love these guys. Outside of them just being cool guys, they're genuinely really great local band. So, moving on to another local band that I'm a big fan of, Aight Bet. Now, I've talked about Aight Bet in one of my concert confessions. I think it was maybe episode 3 or 4 or some shit like that. I became aware of these guys in 2024 and quickly became a fan. First video I ever saw for them, one of their music videos, I was hooked. I love what they do. They refer to their genre of music as hoodcore, which I've always found really cool. And they're sort of basically kind of a nu metal band, They've got rap vocals, they've got clean vocals, they've got harsh vocals. I really love their stuff. Genuinely think they're just an absolutely phenomenal band. This was my 3rd time seeing them, and it was great, as it always is. I think they were missing one of their guitarists, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully everything's going okay with him. But everybody else was there in attendance. Everybody else was killing it. I love, having Consume the Divide and Aight Bet as your first 2 bands was awesome because both of them put so much energy out there, and they're so good at getting the crowd into it. Even if you're not familiar with them, or, maybe you just, you're not super into that style of music, what have you, just the energy they put into it, they're going to do a really good job of just getting you hyped up and getting you excited for the show. And in general, I would say that the crowd really responded well to both of the first two bands. Although I will say, at one point, the what was it during? It was during Consume the Divide show. At one point, after the show, they went over there and they were tossing out the set lists. I ended up grabbing two of them because one guy went over there and grabbed it, and he was like, he saw me and he's like, "Do you want it?" Because like I don't really know them, so like I don't, you know. And I was like, okay, so, but I'll get more into that later. But Aight Bet are fantastic. It was really cool to see them again. They're all extremely cool guys. They're always a joy to see. And again, seeing them with Consume the Divide, I hope that those two bands team up a lot more. Moving on to the third band, this was the first band that I had no familiarity with. I guess they're another local band called Collapse Create. And starting off, they had two vocalists on stage, and I was like, this is a weird thing. Like, Consume the Divide has two vocalists, Aight Bet has two vocalists, and now we have, you know, so it was a whole little thing. But as it turned out, one of the vocalists was just there for that one song that he, you know, went into the crowd. I'd never heard these guys before. I became a fan afterwards. They put on a really cool set. It was definitely very different than what Consume the Divide and Aight Bet did, where both of them were very high energy and again, sort of, you know, kind of quasi nu metal style. Consume the Divide was more sort of ambient, you know, some very nice technical playing and stuff. Very, very cool, you know, like, I like, you know, even though I am like a nu metal guy and stuff, I enjoy that type of stuff. I love seeing technical playing. And they hit it, man. You know, they weren't, I wouldn't go as far, you know, I wouldn't say they were like, holy shit, amazing or anything, but they were good enough that they impressed me. And after their set was done, I actually went over to their merch table. I wanted to pick up CDs so I could, you know, become more familiar with their music. But I guess at the time that I'm, you know, that I was there and that I'm doing this, their stuff's just digitally available, you know, so. And then I was going to get a shirt, wanted a double XL in their black shirt, and they're like, we're almost sold out. But we do have double X in these beige shirts. And it was like, if you're a metal band, I'm not trying to pigeonhole you, there's a reason why black shirts sell out before almost any other color shirt. Because you're a metal band. So I can understand why, but anyway. Really cool band, really liked what they were doing. Hopefully in the future they'll have merch and I'll see them again and I can pick up merch that works for me. Let's move on to band number 4, Discrepancies. Yes! I have to admit, getting to see Consume the Divide, getting to see Aight Bet was fantastic. That was like, love it. Chef's kiss. Having Discrepancies on there was such a cool added bonus for me. They were, I think, if they weren't the only band that wasn't out of Illinois, they were certainly the first. I believe they're out of Missouri. I actually became aware of these guys a few months ago. They were on tour with some other bands that I was out to see. I think I might have even done a concert confessions for that particular show. I never heard of them up until then. Really enjoyed their set the first time I saw them. And then I just started binging their music because I really, really liked it. So when I saw that they were going to be on this show, like it was just one more reason to be there. You know, if I didn't want to go all the way out to fucking Belvidere in the first place, and they were fantastic. Extremely nice guys. I got some pictures taken with them, picked up some merch, because the last time I went to go see them, all I was able to afford was a single CD, because I was kind of broke at the time. So I mentioned to them at the time, I'm like, if I see you guys again, I will go over there and I'll buy some more merch. So I did do that. Their show was fantastic. They are another very high energy show with sort of nu metal elements to them. And again, the crowd definitely responded. You know, there was quite a bit of movement and people were going for it, man. I love Discrepancies. I think they're an awesome, awesome band. Enough said. Let's move on to, let's move on to band number 5. This is another band I was unfamiliar with, Modifire. So Modifire, I'm not sure where they're from. They might not be local. I apologize. I forgot to get that information before doing this. They were a bit of a slow burn for me. I was enjoying what they were doing, to be fair. Like, they weren't bad. But it was one of those ones where, like, some bands you just immediately click with. Them, it took me a little bit. Their style of metal was a little bit more kind of quasi-traditional, compared to some of the other bands that were performing. Uh, but it was one of those things where like little by little they started to win me over. The lead singer had sort of a kind of a meatloaf type appeal to him, and I mean that in the best way. He was like this kind of like very broad-shouldered dude, looked like he could probably tear the fucking tree trunk out of the ground. And then he also just had this voice that was like, yeah, it was like it resonated. Extra credit to the bassist of Modifier. That dude, aside from having one of the most epic beard braids I've ever seen, he was so into it. And it was like, and I mentioned this in a post I made. If System of a Down or Mudvayne ever, if their bassists ever decide to fuck off, call that guy. Oh my god, man, because like he just was so into it. And it's great to see a bassist into it because, no offense, bassists, some bassists don't all get that into it. Sometimes they can be kind of, just there. So it's always cool when you do get, that bassist that's just up there and just getting funky with it. And I loved what he was doing. And I also have to give credit to the drummer. The drummer was probably the oldest person out of any band member, out of any of the bands. And he was fucking slaying, man. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, old people, blah, blah, blah. That. But it was just so cool because, like, I saw the guy come out and I was like, he is probably about, like, 10 years older minimum to everybody else. But shows, man, fucking age don't mean a damn thing. If you can fucking kill it, you can fucking kill it. And he did. And that was a big part of what got me into what they were doing, I ended up really enjoying their set. They were, and I don't mean this to be mean, they were probably, out of all the bands that performed, probably the one that I was the least into. They were the only one where I didn't go, at least attempt to buy merch, like, because in Collapse Create's case, I didn't get merch, but I wanted to get merch. I did like their stuff. They definitely fall into that category of, like, I wouldn't go to see them just to see them, but if they were on, a show, that'd be cool that they were there. That's kind of where I fell with them. But again, that's not to shit on them. I like their performance and everything. I think it was just more of a style thing, just I like different types of metal, a little bit more unusual metal than what they were putting on. But I did like their set. Moving on to the very final one. We had From Ashes to Embers. I thought I knew who this band was because, like, I've seen a lot of bands, obviously. I'm on 181 concerts now. So I kind of had an idea in my head. I was like, I think I know these guys. I did not know who they were. They were a local band, and I don't know how I missed them. Coming out, like the initial thing was really cool. I was enjoying what they were doing. It really took off for me, though, when the second vocalist came on stage, because, again, they were another band with two vocalists. But the cool thing with this was they actually had a male vocalist and a female vocalist. I love female vocalists in metal. I'm a big, big fan, big proponent of that, and I've been happy to see that growing. When she busted out the keytar, they sold me. I'm like, how can you not, man? How can you not love a fucking keytar? But I really, really enjoyed their set. Like, I really dug what they were doing, I love the mixing of the styles of vocals. I love the energy that they put into it. They were my find of the night, for sure. Because, again, with Consume the Divide, Aight Bet, and Discrepancies, I knew all their stuff already. Collapse Create enjoyed their set. Modifier enjoyed their set. Ashes to Embers were definitely the find, though. They were just like, yes, 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 yes. And I was so freaking hyped for what they were doing. Made even better when they started busting out some new metal covers. Went over there and hit up Got the Life by Korn, which I was like, yes, that was so cool, man. That, getting to see that made me go over there and just like, I literally on the drive home was like, I put that song on repeat, as I was making my way home. Because it was just like, been such a long time since I'd indulged in that. And then they also hit up Chop Suey by System of a Down, which was just, come on, that's one of the greatest nu metal songs of all time. They were absolutely fantastic. They did a great job with the crowd. Very nice people. I got to, chat with them a little bit after their set and everything at their merch table. Nothing but great things to say. Let's move on to the crowd. The crowd was decent. So this particular show had originally been scheduled for a different venue, but because there was actually overflow, they had to upgrade to a bigger venue, which again sucked for me a little bit because I'd go all the way out to Belvidere. But Belvidere aside, and nothing against Belvidere, it's a nice little spot, but it's far out of the way. That aside, you know, I was given that. I was expecting like almost a sold out thing. You know, there was a line, which was nice. Everybody said the same thing. It's nice to see a line. There was a line outside. There was a decent sized crowd for what it was, especially again being more like local bands and stuff. I will say, as the show went forward, you could see people starting to make their way out. I think just because 6 bands, I loved it, but 6 bands is a lot. So by the time From Ashes to Embers got started playing, they were probably at about like maybe half of like what they'd been at fully, which was a little bit of a shame because I don't think that was people not wanting to see them. I think that was again just, you know, the night was getting late and it's out in the middle of nowhere, Belvidere. So, but crowd was good, no complaints, no assholes or anything. They did have some kids around. That's actually when I was talking about the Consume the Divide when I got the set list. I went over there and I actually gave my extra set list. This one family was there and they had a little girl with them, so I went over and gave that to her. Whether or not she cared, you know, but I figured it was a nice thing to do. But crowd, good. Let's move on to merch because I'm running low on time. I got a bunch of merch to get through. So, we got first thing, boom, Discrepancies shirt, and boom, back. I thought this was the front, but it's a very cool shirt. I love the anime style. Consume the Divide shirt. Yeah, these are newly printed. I actually had an old Consume the Divide shirt. I like this one. It's very cool. So, final shirt. We got, boom, Aight Bet shirt. This was a brand new shirt design that they came out with. I'm just not big into long sleeve shirts, but it's such a cool design, I decided to grab it anyway. We got more stuff. Like I said, lots of stuff. We've got, boom, Discrepancies album. Second album I've got from them. Got it all signed. Very cool. Got, boom, From Ashes to Embers. Again, got it signed by the band, or at least the band members who were there. Another one From Ashes to Embers. And, boom, Aight Bet's sophomore album. Which, again, signed by a couple of the members. I was hoping to get them signed by all of them, but most of them had left by the time I got it. So, and I got some extra stuff. We got, boom, set list from Ashes to Embers. Again, signed. Ooh. And, my Consume the Divide set list. Very cool. One final thing. Drumstick. This was from Consume the Divide. It went over there, broke while Dan was beating on the drums. That's why I got it signed by him. Says, love you, bro. Dan, I love you too. You're great fucking people. So that's the merch and the things that I got. Where's the thing? Pros and cons and final grade. Pros, great run of bands. Really enjoyed the overall. Like, even the ones that I, again, wasn't maybe as into, I really liked this lineup. I thought it was fantastic. I thought all the bands fit pretty well together. And I was really, you know, delightfully surprised by some of the stuff that went on. I had a really, really good time. It was a long day, but it was a really fun time. Con, out in Belvidere, Illinois. Just so far out of the way. Such a pain in the ass drive. But, again, Belvidere's a nice place. I actually got some really good tacos before I got to the show. Other cons to speak of? I mean, well, in other pros, it was great getting to see Consume the Divide again. Aight Bet. It was fantastic. I had a lot of fun. Really, there were no other cons. It would have been nice to have had bigger crowd. But, again, for, you know, it being what it was, plus we had a holiday weekend and stuff, nothing really to complain about. It was a good shot, or it was a really good time. My overall grade for the show, because I am running out of time, I'm going to give this one an A-. There were certain things, you know, like I said, I enjoyed every band, but it's not like every band knocked it out of the park for me, but it was a really fun time. The venue was very cool, just a pain in the ass to get to. there was really no huge downside or anything to it. And again, it was just a really good show. It wouldn't have been my ideal lineup if I could go over there and pencil it all in. But every band brought it. Every band put on a really good show. So yeah, I think A- works perfectly for me. That all said, I am going to go over there and get out of here now because it's over 25 minutes. Folks, have yourself a great rest of your time doing whatever you're doing. Continue to support live music and local bands. Rock the fuck on. I'm out!